Welcome to the Worldwide Doula podcast. I'm Barry, I'm a registered nurse and birth doula, and each week I'm joined by a new guest speaker to talk about all things pregnancy, birth, babies, and parenthood. So it's time to sit back and relax as we get into some juicy topics. Welcome back to the Worldwide Doula podcast, guys. This is a super exciting episode because I'm joined by the lovely Tomikah Jenkins, a female-focused fitness coach from the Gold Coast. Actually, it's not Jenkins anymore, is it? What's your last name now?
No, it's MacArthur Williams, but I forget all the time. So yeah.
Yeah, it's a different having to change your whole last name and everything.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
It's
definitely.
the whole world.
Congratulations on your wedding and now your pregnancy. I'm so excited. I know you were feeling a little bit off today, so thank you so much for still coming on the podcast. I've been super excited to talk to you. Today, we will be talking about what Tomikah did to prepare her body for pregnancy, how her pregnancy is going so far, and all about exercising in the first trimester. To start with, do you want to just tell us a bit about yourself, Tomikah, and how you actually got into the field of fitness coaching specifically for women?
Yeah, gosh, this is literally my least favorite thing to do is describe myself. Okay, so I'm Tomikah. I am a personal trainer on the Gold Coast. And how that all sort of became was I think I was doing 3 jobs at the time, studying at uni, very, very lost. I feel like it's like that lost period after high school where you think that you know where you're going to go with your life. And then all of a sudden you're like, this is not what I thought finishing high school was going to be like. So I was sort of just working myself save money because I wanted to be able to do things that adults can do, like travel. But then I still wanted to go to uni because, that's what you're supposed to do when you finish high school. And that was basically the only path I feel like you were told at school where to go. And then I just remember every day either hating the idea of having to go to a job that I really wasn't that passionate about. And then I was getting into going to F45 at the time, and I just thought this place was the best. I could be there for hours and just love it. And I thought this would be like such a cool place to work. Everyone seems so fun and carefree. They get to go to the beach after they finish their shift. Like, what the heck? Like, what a great lifestyle. And one day I was sitting there talking to a girl that I then started working with, obviously. And she said, why don't you just get a job here? Like, why don't you just study to be a personal trainer and you could work here? Like, this could be your lifestyle too. And I remember thinking, that's actually an option. Like, I don't have to go down the path that we get told to go to all the time in school. My end goal at uni was to start a business. That was always sort of like a goal in my mind. Or I thought I'd be a teacher, teaching people, or like children anyway. And so it kind of ended up being this job that I fell into where I got to put both things I wanted together. Like, I got to help people, teach people, but I also got to learn how to be my own boss, which definitely came not as easy as some people I think it is actually like a lot of load, but it was also something that I just became so passionate about, and waking up at 4 a.m. wasn't an issue. Whereas to go to my previous job, waking up at 6 a.m. was most definitely an issue, and it was very hard to get out of bed. So you would think that 2 hours earlier I wouldn't be, but when you're passionate about something, clearly you don't mind doing it. And I was always so excited to go to work, always so excited to talk to different people. And even when I'm on holiday now, 5 years later, I think about how I'm going to reset programs. I think about my clients, and I don't mind staying in contact and being on my phone and working. I mean, sometimes it is good to turn it off because I do constantly think about it, but I'm just so passionate about wanting to help people and just seeing people after a couple of weeks when they realize that they've had this progression and I've been able to help that. It blows my mind when people tell me thank you for this. I'm like, I didn't really do that much. Like, I think that I just got to come along for the journey with them. When people are just so thankful for it, you're just like, wow, you actually really helped. In some cases, you have changed where their life will go now and how they do things. And it's quite incredible, and that is my job. So to some, it doesn't sound like much, going and teaching people to squat and lunge and everything like that. But for some people, it changes their whole life path and how they think about their life. And it's more just a few exercises.
Yeah, definitely.
A bit of counseling in there as well, but it's great.
It sounds like you're really passionate about that. It's good. Yeah. You've definitely got into the right field there.
Yeah, it definitely ticks all the boxes of where I did see myself in my life. It's just not where I thought I would be if I asked myself when I was 16 when I left school.
Yeah. I mean, you've really taken off. Sante.
Yeah, Sante. Sorry, it's hard to pronounce.
I like wrote it down here, but I could not.
Oh, you should hear how
it.
people pronounce any of my names, because Asante is my middle name, and it's just like my parents really wanted people to struggle pronouncing my full name. But yeah, Asante, which inevitably means good health in French. So they obviously had some inkling of where I was going to go in my
Yes,
life.
exactly. I mean, your fitness activewear looks beautiful.
Thank you.
I wish I could get it over here in Indonesia. I would definitely order the whole lot.
Oh, thank you so much. No,
I moved.
again, it's a passion project in itself too, which has stemmed from training people.
It's not easy to start a fitness activewear. There's so many out there now.
Oh yeah,
Definitely.
Gosh.
You really took a gamble there.
It is definitely a big gamble. I do call it my expensive hobby, but a few years down the track,
that's exactly what it is.
She's growing. But yes, to most people, I do explain like, oh, it's just my expensive hobby. But it is great. And you do learn a lot about talking to people as well, which is great, because I'm actually a shy person sometimes. So if people ask me about the brand, I get really shy, and I'll always say, oh, it's one of my best friend's brands. Yeah, it's really great.
Oh, no. Oh, well.
I'm not good at
own it.
Like boasting about my own stuff. I just never really
feel
have been that person, but I love it and I'm super passionate about it. But if someone asked me about it, I was my friend's brand and I'm just obsessed with it, obviously.
You should own it because it's doing so well and it's beautiful.
One day, it's a goal of mine.
Yeah. Going back to the podcast, women's bodies, they are wonderfully complicated and amazing. But one of the biggest worries that I hear recently going around women my age, I'm assuming you're about my age, is I'm still on contraception and I want to plan in the next year or so to get pregnant. When should I come off contraception to stabilize my hormone levels and make it easy for me to fall pregnant? I actually read a few studies about this before we hopped on the call because my sisters said to me this same thing, which is why I wanted to ask it to you. They did a study out there, which the conclusion was that being on contraception doesn't necessarily make you have problems afterwards, which I'm surprised because my sisters always worry about it. And I kind of low-key worry about it at the back of my mind. But in the study, they found that out of 14,800 women that they did the study on, 88% of the women fell pregnant in the first 12 months after coming off the hormone pill or whatever hormone contraception they were on. Were you on contraception before you fell pregnant, or what's the story there?
So for exactly the reason you just said, the worry is always on my mind. So for me, it's different for everybody, especially because I train a large group of women. So I have a pool that could probably take either side. But I went on it when I was in high school, came off it very quickly because I just had a very negative effect on it. And then when I got a boyfriend at uni, I tried to go back on it again, but very quickly noticed those side effects again. So I took myself off of it. But saying that, I was on it for a short-term period, but I had long-term effects after hopping off it. And this was something that definitely played concern to me because I've always been one who wanted to be a young mum. I always saw myself falling pregnant about at this age. So after hopping off the pill there, I didn't have a regular period for at least 6-ish months. It probably longer, even up to a year. And I found that my cycle was never regular and I was quite cautious of that. But as like a 420s person, like it was amazing not having my period all the time. Like how great, I don't have to worry about it. However, it would randomly just hit me on a random day and I'd be like, what the hell? Like I haven't had you for like 2 months and now you're here again. So then that definitely started to cause concern in my mind. I went to a doctor a few times. They'd like to blame it on the fact on how small I was. I'm like, well, that can't be the case because I was getting it before I went on the pill. When you go to a more female specific doctor, I finally did get someone who took it a little bit more seriously and didn't just blame my weight on that because I wasn't too small for it to be a concern. Then down the track later on, I did do some fitness competitions where I did obviously get way too lean, but I only did it for that competition. It wasn't like my way of life. So that then made me lose my period again. And I don't think I got it back for like 2 years regularly. I had to go on a bunch of different like vitamins and stuff like that. I did acupuncture and like a bunch of other things, but it then made me very, very cautious of, well, am I going to get pregnant? I had a few doctors tell me to my face, you are going to struggle to get pregnant because your period is not regular. So that definitely made concerns to myself. I have some very close friends to me who were on the pill up until recently because they're thinking about in the next couple of years they want kids. They don't even had a regular period in over a year. So to me, that's quite concerning because obviously you need the regulation to be able to fall pregnant. And for myself, they were saying, well, you're just not ovulating. That's why you're not getting a regular period, because you need to ovulate first. So I don't know, you can sit on either end of the fence, because some people do, they off the pill and they seem to get somewhat of a regular period after. I don't know too many though. I have multiple friends that are hopping off of it now because they're noticing the long-term effects. They basically feel like they're teenagers again. They're getting adult acne. Others are just not getting any bleeds, or they're very irregular. So I personally think the pill is not the best way to go. Obviously, I'm not saying people shouldn't be on contraception because you don't want all these other things to happen, but it most definitely must play a big effect on people. And you're seeing a higher percentage of people struggling with falling pregnant. So I just don't know. And in my mind, I think, is it the contraceptive pill and the fact that they easily give it out to 13, 14-year-olds, and most people stay on it for 10 years.
Sometimes even longer.
Or even longer. I'm just saying, the people that I know, they've been on it for probably about 10 years now.
It's interesting that you say that and you have that observation, like the real life experience of your friends coming off it. It's a bit scary being told stuff like that by your doctor. And the number of times that I've heard young women or even older teenagers, they have endometriosis or PCOS, and their doctor says, oh, you won't have kids.
Luckily, I have friends in the medical field, and I remember just sitting in the car park of the doctors, and I called her literally hysterically crying, because in that moment I'm like, well, the life I wanted is gone. Like, what do you mean I'm going to be able to get pregnant? And luckily she could sort of calm me down and talk me through some of the tests, and she gave me some recommendations. And it's also why I started trying so early, because I say to my husband over and over, we've been told like it's going to be hard, it's going to be challenging, it's probably not going to happen for a while, and clearly that was wrong.
When did you start trying? I would like to know.
So I downloaded the Flow app.
I have that one too.
Oh, do you? I think it's fantastic. Honestly,
it's so great.
I downloaded that ages ago just to track my cycle, because like I said, I'm not super consistent, but I wanted to get a bit of an idea. So I did that when we sort of like started talking and planning of the wedding. So we weren't trying to get pregnant then, but if we fell pregnant, I wasn't going to be upset about it. So then skip to this April where you just got married. I basically was very onto it by then. My partner does work away, so our window was very tiny. And I knew nothing about how to fall pregnant. Absolutely nothing. I learned off some of the mums that I train, and they were telling me the best window and the best time. So having them to tell me all these things, plus having the app, I realized you learn absolutely nothing in school. You get taught that you're going to fall pregnant by just being touched by that. It's actually very challenging.
I love that. That's so funny.
It's so
that
true.
Is so true. That is so true.
And you don't realize like the math and the planning that has to go into it. For most people, I mean, some people are just extremely fertile. But for most people, it does take planning. I think personally, if you're really wanting to get pregnant, obviously don't make it your whole world, because then you're just putting too much stress on yourself. But if you're not even going to check your windows and know your windows and try inside those windows, you're going to find it very hard. I think knowing them at least and giving it a crack in those days, you're going to have a better chance. And we did. So having the Flow app and trying in the window, it took us only 4 months, which for someone who was told they were going to be infertile and find it hard was not very long at all. I really thought we were going to have to try for like a year, but we were quite lucky and blessed, really. It happened actually on a month that we weren't going to be able to try due to my partner being away. So we just caught it at the right time. They always say when you're not really thinking about it, it's going to happen.
That's really amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
I'm glad that it didn't take you too long. Did you do anything else in particular to prepare?
Not really. I did try just your hormones. It's good to have a good amount of healthy fats in your diet. I'm not one who typically likes most healthy fats. I just don't. But I did try immensely to think, okay, I need to try and add some more healthy fats. So like olive oil, I ate more avocado. I started eating a bit more cheese, which I guess to most people is kind of normal, but I don't really like most of them. So I kind of would always have like a very thin amount. It's also something I recommend to people if they're trying to get their periods back, is increasing their health hormones. I did reduce exercise slightly. I think I was mainly doing 3 to 4 sessions. I was doing nice light walks, but keeping stress down through exercise and trying my best to have a good sleep routine. Because again, stress plays a massive factor into it. When your body feels ready to take on this big thing, that's when it'll happen.
Sounds like you did everything correct. Go have an article about preparing for pregnancy and what you have to do. And exactly that. Eat the right foods. Drink lots of water. Don't put your body under stress. Stress is one of the main influences that actually makes you have difficulty falling pregnant. So yeah, sounds like you did the right thing. When did you discover that you were pregnant, and what was your initial reaction?
It was confusion, because the thing is, like I said, we weren't really trying that month. So my period wasn't coming and I was thinking, oh my gosh, of all months, this is when we're both like, okay, let's lock this in for the month that was coming. So I needed my period to come so I could start figuring out if Stuart would be here during that ovulation window. And it just wasn't coming. And I had just launched a new range with Sante and I was like, great, I've stressed out my body too much, because that happens with me. A little bit of extra stress, period changes its whole ways. So that was something I've always been really visual of, and why I have to keep my stress down, because that'll just throw it all out of whack. So I just get in, where is it? And the Flow app sent me a notification and it's like, time for a test. And I was like, oh, I'm not taking a bloody test. It's ridiculous. I would feel something. I feel like my period's coming. I have all the symptoms of my period. It's just, there's no bleed. So then a week goes by and I get another notification, and I was meant to actually be at work at the time, but I actually ended up having a big cancellation. So I was just downstairs. It was like 4:30 a.m. I get this notification and I was like, oh, for God's sake, I'm pretty sure I have some tests. I'm going to prove this app wrong and I'm just going to go on it, because I'm going to have to go to the doctor and figure out what's going on here, because I really want to try this month. I just feel like it's the time to try. So I go and I pee on this stick. I did do it the original time when it told me nothing, and I was like, duh, obviously. So I was like, I'm going to do it again, just really know, so I can go to the doctor and be like, what's going on? So it's probably like 4:35 and I flip it over and I just get full chills, and I grab my phone, because I had been recording every month when I had tried and every other time was wrong. So I get my phone out and my whole body is just like, it's like I've seen a ghost. I'm shivering, like, am I going crazy? Have I want this so bad? I have visualized a very faint line on this stick and I can barely hold it. I'm in tears and I'm just so confused, because I feel like I'm meant to have my period, which in hindsight, period symptoms and pregnancy symptoms are very similar. I then realized everything that I had been feeling was actually a pregnancy symptom, but I was so set on the fact that I was going to have my period that I didn't even consider it being a pregnancy. And I remember just looking down and thinking, oh my God, what am I going to tell Stuart? I told him we needed to start trying this month. And then I kind of got myself together, because I still had to go to work at this point. And I was just at work and I remember seeing some of my friends there. I remember seeing my parents there. We all kind of go to the same gym. And in my mind, I'm just like, do they know? Can people tell? I'm like, crazy. And then I went home, did another stick, because I was like, I need to be certain. I can't get overexcited. I probably was seeing things. I did another one and it came up even faster. And I was just like, oh my God, this is the moment I have been waiting for. Since I was very little, it's what I've always wanted. And I was just like, I can't believe this is it. And I feel the bloody same. And then I got really nervous to tell Stuart. I really shouldn't have, but I fully was freaking out that he was going to be mad that I had told him we were trying this month and we were in fact actually already pregnant. So it's funny how that happens, because we were finally in the same place, really keen to try. But I had said to him, it probably isn't going to happen for like another 6 months. Like, we need to get back onto it. We need to get back to trying. And little did we both know, that whole time we were having that conversation, I probably was like a couple weeks pregnant. I think I found out and we must have been just going on 4 weeks. So it feels like I've been pregnant for forever, because I'm only 12 weeks now. But I basically found out so early, when most people don't really realize till like 6 weeks. But because I was so onto it with wanting to try, I was counting down the days until my period came, just so that I could try.
I have a good friend who's now on her 3rd baby. Oh, I know already. She's like born to be a mum. She got married and then they moved house, and they said the day that we move into the house, we can start trying. She had ovulation sticks. She was tracking everything. I think that's like next level.
I tried those ovulation sticks because I was so like, I don't understand why we're not falling pregnant like all these years that we've been together. There's been no scare. So I remember using the sticks, and they were actually always telling me that I was never ovulating. People have problems with them. I'm clearly one of them. That's what made me panic even more, because I'm like, well, maybe the doctor's right and I don't ovulate properly, but then I'm getting a period, so I must ovulate. But clearly the sticks and I didn't get on. So but then I've got 2 friends, one that is like me and they didn't get sticks to work, whereas I have another friend and they use the sticks as their form of contraception.
I find the natural forms of contraception that are coming out now actually really interesting. What changes have you noticed in the first trimester already?
Oh my God, the fatigue. I know I said to you this today, I wasn't feeling that well. And the thing is my body seems to, when it gets really tired, I start to get really nauseous when I feel fatigued. I then fell asleep for like 2.5 hours and I could have easily just kept sleeping. However, I get really bad insomnia. That was one of the first symptoms I had, but I didn't realize it was tied to pregnancy at the time until I mentioned it to my doctor at one of my first sort of more pregnancy orientated appointments. And she was like, oh yeah, that's pretty normal. And I was like, oh, okay, great. That's fantastic. I thought maybe I just was waking up, maybe the change in weather or my dogs. I was blaming them, the poor things. So for me, I've been quite lucky in nausea hasn't been a symptom. Like I haven't physically been sick, but I feel violently hungover randomly throughout the day. And I suffer with really bad insomnia to the point that I do have some assistance with sleeping that I've been given from the doctor. I try not to take it because I don't really want to be dependent on it. But at least once a week I have to take it because it's just you wake up every single hour, which most mums like to tell me, you're getting ready for when the baby's here. And I'm like, I still have 6 months. I would like to sleep. And then my body has changed actually a lot quicker than I thought it was going to. So I'm 12 weeks and I've gone up a full dress size. And I guess most people tell me that they can't really tell. I think it's because I'm quite tall. It kind of like doesn't look, it's not all bump. It's kind of gone a little bit everywhere and spread around my body. So lots of clothes are feeling a lot tighter. I can't get any jeans past my thighs. So I've had to get elastic waisted pants that stretch so that I feel comfortable. And that's only in 12 weeks. And I think they say like around to 14 is when the stomach really starts to reshape. I'd be interested if how quickly that happens because it honestly felt like it just happened overnight. And all of a sudden I was like, who is this I'm looking at in the mirror? It's wild. I'm like, oh my Lord, did I get my boobs done at some point? What is going on here? It is like a whole new body. Definitely more of like a motherly curved body instead of before I was a lot more muscular from going to the gym and everything and just my lifestyle. So it is interesting. I did have a bit of a mental breakdown when almost everything in my wardrobe didn't fit me. That kind of was a bit happy sad. It's happy that, you know, you're getting all like the changes of pregnancy, but you still feel a bit sad when you know that your scales are going up and your clothes aren't fitting.
Have you felt like working out has helped you?
So with working out, like I said, with the fatigue, it was very hard. So I did have to cut that down a little bit. My aim and my goal is to stick to 3 sessions a week. However, if I'm really fatigued, I won't overdo it because my body basically just needs to sleep a lot. I need to nap most days. For the first few weeks when I didn't really know I was pregnant, I actually felt the fittest and strongest I had been, which I have heard from a few people because of all the extra collagen and everything your body's pumping. So I actually was hitting PBs in the gym, feeling fantastic. Then about week 6, it just went, my fatigue went through the roof. I couldn't drink caffeine anymore. Work was definitely very challenging on top of the pregnancy fatigue. So I did see a dip. I think some weeks I was only getting there once a week, but I did notice a very different shift in my mental behavior after a few weeks of feeling a bit ick. And at first I thought it was the pregnancy, and then I kind of took a bit of an evaluation and I was like, it's probably the fact that I had just not been able to train. So I set the goal 3 sessions, 30 minutes, and my gosh, that week alone, I just felt so much better mentally. My energy levels were a little bit higher. I still did nap, but I felt great. And by try 2, you're normally meant to get a bit of a surge of energy. So I should hopefully be back to, you know, hitting somewhat better sessions. I'm only really meant to be hitting max 60%. So all my weights are definitely dropped, which as someone who has been training for so long can be a bit mentally challenging because you're like, I can lift heavier. And then you put the weight on and then you really reconsider and like, no, this is not actually good or beneficial for me right now. I need to take it off. I'm here to train for the benefit of moving. I'm not here to build muscle. I'm just here to sort of stick to a nice baseline. So when I do come back postpartum, I have a nice baseline to start. I'm not starting from the very, very beginning. That is the current plan, is to keep training up until I can't train. While it feels good, I'm going to keep doing it because I know the benefits.
I can definitely relate. When I go on my period, I'm like, ugh, I don't feel like training. But then the second I go, I'm like,
it feels like that.
I feel so much better. And even my
Exactly.
husband's like, you're so grumpy before. And then he's like, oh, that's the person.
Yeah, you do. You feel lighter, you feel happier, you have that clarity. That's exactly how to explain it for someone who isn't pregnant. It's like when you're on your period and you really just don't want to go, you feel like a big potato. But once you get there, you feel so much better. It's moving, it's the hormones moving, it's the food moving, which sometimes some people, like myself, when you're pregnant, the food doesn't want to move as much as it used to move and you're feeling constantly bloated. So it does feel good to get, you know, a little bit of movement going there. So there are so many benefits. We obviously have to be careful, but when you know how to do the right things, the gym can still be a very safe place for a pregnant person.
I kind of already knew it, but I just wanted to support it with some evidence before I went out there and said it. Women who exercise during their pregnancy actually end up having more spontaneous onset of labor and have a higher rate of vaginal births than people who don't exercise when they're pregnant. And sometimes exercise doesn't have to mean going to the gym. Sometimes it can be a yoga class at home or going for a walk. Have you had to change your gym routine at all since becoming pregnant? Have you cut out any specific workouts?
Exercise wise, at the moment, I'm quite lucky. The only things I have cut out are barbell hip thrusts because I'm not at the stage where the bump would be in the way, but you are a bit cautious of the little being that's inside you and you don't want to be putting all that load on. So at the moment, I can easily change that for a dumbbell single leg version, a banded version. Like there are lots of other options there. I am not doing chin ups because of the doming on my stomach, which is bittersweet because I was getting so good at them prior. So I was really excited about that, but that's okay. That's a goal for next year. And lat pull downs as well for the same reason. I've started to cut that out a little bit early, but again, there are other variations of the exercise that are better for you. So why not just get rid of it now? I have luckily done my pre and postnatal courses. So I was aware of those quite early on that they would need to be changed. And I have trained a few women from prior to getting pregnant, throughout their pregnancy, and now on the other end. And they are even saying to me how quickly they're recovering from their pregnancy. They've lost more of the baby weight. They've been able to stay more active throughout their pregnancy. They're having less issues with their hips and lower back because that can be quite a big thing. People having their kids is their muscles and everything shifts. So they start to have a bit of pelvic issues. But for this pregnancy, she said, I've had no problems. I feel amazing. And she's back in the gym, almost getting her fitness above where it was before because we kept it at that baseline for most of the 9 months. Like you said, it doesn't need to be gym. It just needs to be some form of movement. And she was dead on with her due date. I have heard from people that training close up to really does help you have a quicker birth. There's just so many benefits. However, there is a lot of fear around it. I obviously would recommend someone, if they've never stepped into a gym, to step into a gym once they fall pregnant, because that's going to be a big shift on their body. Just like if someone was into weight, I wouldn't go, oh, just go do a HIIT class tomorrow. Again, it's better to stay within your realm. If someone who had never stepped into the gym, fell pregnant, wanted to step into the gym, yes, they could. You just have to be a bit more cautious. Take it very, very slowly. You wouldn't be seeing big progressions. It would be more just, again, they're there to move their body. And weight training can have that lower risk because it's not really jumping around. It's not jolting. You can change most of the moves to make them super beginner friendly or more pregnancy friendly compared to like classes where you're kind of hopping in and you'd have to do it yourself. This is sort of like you're there for yourself. You can do everything individualized so that you can feel comfortable. But it's definitely something I noticed, especially in my mum's generation. They like to tell me this almost every single day. I think someone tells me, oh, you shouldn't be lifting that. For them, working out while pregnant was not normal. It wasn't a thing, especially weight training in itself wasn't as big as it is now for females. It was more of what the man did. We've stepped into this world where a woman can do anything a man can do, and better sometimes. There is definitely this stigma of doing it, and I can understand because there is a fear it can cause miscarriage. However, you would have to be doing something a little bit crazy to sort of have any issues. And if you ever feel uncomfortable or anything like that, you obviously cut it out. It doesn't need to be scary, but information is key and knowledge is key. So for people who are wanting to keep moving and training while pregnant and maybe they're not as super knowledgeable in that area, they're kind of at the basics, they would definitely obviously recommend a trainer that knows what they're talking about, because there are things, especially later down the track, like you can't do lots of abdominal work. You can only do certain movements, which depending on what week you're at, you actually have to cut out. So for example, at the moment for ab work that I'm doing, I'm not doing it to create a six-pack. It's just to protect my lower back for when everything starts to shift. And so we can do side planks, normal planks, but then in the next couple of weeks, some of that for me is going to have to cut out because it's too much crunching and doming for my stomach. And again, I'm just here to make sure that my lower back is going to be protected and that my core is somewhat strong, because at the end of the day, you're going to have to rebuild. That's one of the main things that people struggle with when they come back to training, is obviously from being pregnant, everything in there is moved around to give birth and it becomes so much weaker.
Well, I think it's important to have that support, because working out but not overworking yourself.
Yes.
I follow this other fitness enthusiast and she said that when she was pregnant, she worked out like crazy. She did her normal stuff, but like with a few variations to make sure she was still safe. But when she actually went into labor, all of those muscles that she worked on during her pregnancy just tensed up, and it actually made her labor so much harder. And all the midwives are like, just relax. And she's like, I'm trying to, like everything's just tensing. But it's so important to have that core strength at the same time, not to build abs, but to make sure that your core is stable and can actually support your pregnancy throughout the 9 months. I was going to ask if there were any specific exercises that you recommended for women, but you kind of covered it already.
Yeah, definitely the ones that I recommend anyway, just top of head, upper back. Obviously, for when you're breastfeeding, you're going to be doing a lot of hunching over. Obviously, there's a lot more weight in front of you. And to just looking at the baby, that is something super important. And I do notice that we do get a weakness in mothers when I train them, because they're so used to being hunched forward or having to breastfeed, or they're picking up their kids. So upper back to avoid any like back strain or soreness through the neck, but you're working on the upper back to just be able to support your baby. Then glutes and lower back, again, to support when your hips widen, so you still have a strong pelvic floor. That's another thing that moves when you shift. And then core, I would say, but again, not crazy. I would get back into working on your core at the other end. You're more just doing it again to support your lower back and to support everything that is going on within your body. That'd be the main ones: upper back, glutes, and a little bit of the internal core.
You kind of talked a little bit about unsolicited advice. It happens all the time with every stage of your life, I swear, but especially when you're pregnant. People come at you with all these bits of advice. Have you heard anything else other than you shouldn't be lifting that?
The common ones that I have gotten to date now, and this is just probably within the last week, is you're too thin. It's not going to be good for your baby. You shouldn't be exercising how you are. You shouldn't be lifting weights. And I'm like, why? These are just normal things. But it's just, I know someone who knew someone that they did that, and then this led to this. And it's like, everybody's coming from a caring, loving place. And yes, you do take some advice, because some advice is amazing. They know, they've been there, because it's obviously normally from mums. It's normally about the fact that I'm very small and it's not healthy for the baby. So basically the way I look right now, but I'm only 12 weeks. Most people don't really start to really show pregnancy till much later, and some don't even till their third trimester. But it'll be that about the type of training that I do, and that I can't do that. And I'm not helpless. I can do stuff. It's even like just carrying stuff, and I'm like, it's really nice, and I know that you're doing this out of a caring place, but I can lift that up and carry it. I am not hopeless yet. Like, I am a very independent person, so I do find that stuff very challenging.
Yeah.
People kind of want to take my independence away from me so early, and I'm not good at being told I can't do that. If you tell me I can't do it, I probably will do it times 10. So it's obviously something I'll have to learn, but it's probably the most unsolicited advice. And then obviously just different supplements and stuff like that. And sometimes they aren't educated. Like, it's people who have never been in the gym. Gym is very new to them. And so for them, it's like very dangerous. Or exercising while pregnant is very dangerous. And for some, it was unheard of. It's definitely a new thing. Definitely heaps of studies have come out to promote that it's a good thing, and with the recovery process and the pregnancy process. But for most, it's super uncommon. So I can see why people think that it's a bad thing to do. But I think if they actually sat down and read some of the articles, they would see the benefits.
Yeah, I think it's so important to stay up to date with all that stuff, and make sure that the study that you're reading is not from 2003 or something. Make sure it's in the last couple of years. Where can listeners find more information about you, and perhaps even join in on your fitness coaching program?
Yeah. So I have my main Instagram, if you're wanting more the lifestyle version alongside the fitness, is Tomikah Jenkins. But the more fitness side is Sante Fitness PT, where you get more of the knowledgeable content. I don't try and bore too many people on my lifestyle account, because some people are there just to watch and just to see and follow my life. Whereas on that PT account, there's a lot more information and educational content on there, specifically for people who are wanting to learn more so. And then follow on what I did today.
I've actually learned some stuff after following you for some time. Really? Yeah, cool. You cook so many delicious things.
Oh, thanks. And because they take a while to film, so that's always good when people appreciate them. It's like, yes, it was worth those 2 hours.
And I feel like sometimes when you watch something like that, it looks so, they did it so perfectly. But I feel like yours is real and raw and in the moment.
I am not good at being aesthetic. That is probably the first thing people would notice on mine, is it's literally always quick, easy, cheap, and it's going to be yum. I'm not good at plating stuff up. I try really hard to see the behind the scenes of me trying to make stuff look nice, and I just end up giving up and eating it, because I'm like, it tastes good. Who cares?
As long as your husband likes your cooking, that's all that matters. Yeah. And you, obviously.
Yeah.
Maybe he's the cook. I don't know.
No, he's definitely not. No. No, I love cooking. It's definitely how I show my love and care for people. I'm just not very good at presenting, but I am good at making a good meal.
Good. Tomikah, thank you so much for coming on to talk to me today. I've loved talking to you about this topic. It's like fed my soul.
Oh, good.
I've actually learned so much, and I will definitely be using it when I'm pregnant. You've already said it, but I'll say it again. You can find Tomikah at Tomikah Jenkins on Instagram.
Yeah.
And Sante Fitness PT on Instagram.
Yes.
Go and follow her. She has some really good content, and I'm sure she'll be posting some stuff about pregnancy and pregnancy workouts. I've already seen it.
Definitely will be soon. I'm so excited.
Yeah, awesome. Guys, remember to subscribe and tune in for next week's episode. For more information on pregnancy, birth, and parenthood, head over to my website or Instagram at blissfulbirth.co. And just a little reminder, the information contained in this podcast is here to educate and empower and does not replace the advice of your own healthcare provider.